So that has been a huge, huge learning from me is the further I get ahead on things, the better I feel and the better I can show up and support my community. Hey everyone. Welcome back to the Modern Direct Seller Podcast. Today is a super special episode. It is number 200. 200 episodes, over 100,000 downloads of the podcast. I am completely mind blown by that. You know, sometimes you set out with a vision to do something and you have no idea the life that it will take on its own. So it has been incredible. I couldn't have gotten here without all of you, our incredible listeners. So thank you so much for being on this ride, on this journey with me. I am, again, just kind of mind blown that many listeners and that many downloads have happened since back in December 2020, I sat down in my old dusty garage and thought, maybe I should start a podcast. So it's been quite the adventure. I'll share just a little bit of what it felt like in the beginning compared to where we are now in this episode. But I also have captured 10 learnings, 10 things that I have learned over the course of 200 episodes. Some are podcast specific, some are life in general and business and what it feels like to grow and evolve and see your business take lots of different twists and turns that you never even imagined. So really excited you're here with me on this very special episode. I am celebrating right alongside you. If we were all hanging out in a big room together or an arena together, we would be throwing confetti and cheersing champagne and all the things. But happy to be here with you virtually, or if you're on the go in your AirPods. I don't take that lightly, that the voices around you and the people that you listen to influence the way that you live your life. So I am just so grateful for all of you for being here, again, if I can't say that enough, on this incredible journey with me. So let's get started. Lesson number 1. And I have to giggle before I say this out loud. Turn the microphone on. Literally. Turn the microphone on. I started the podcast and recorded 6 episodes. 6 really well thought out, jittery, scripted episodes with the microphone off. It happens to the best of us. I ended up re-recording those if you go back and listen to the very early episodes, but I literally started this podcast accidentally with the microphone off. And I think that's just such a metaphor for putting yourself out there and sharing your thoughts and ideas, even when it feels scary, even when you don't know who's listening. My lesson learned is to turn the microphone on and trust what is going to come out is what people need to hear on that given day. Whether you are live streaming or you're posting on social or you're writing emails or any of the things, I just want to encourage you to turn the microphone on and do it even if it makes you a little nervous. I have to say, a couple episodes back, I talked a little bit about the future of direct selling and some of the trends and where I feel like we're going as an industry. And that episode scared the pants off of me. It really did. It was a lot of things that I talked about kind of behind closed doors, and putting it out there for the world to hear felt a little nerve-wracking. But I have to say, I got really great feedback on that episode, probably more feedback than I've gotten in 200 episodes. So do it scared, turn the microphone on, let people hear your voice. Even if you don't think people are out there listening, I promise you they are. All right, lesson number 2 is to just ask. And this holds true in life, in business, in all the things. You're not going to get what you want unless you just ask. And if you're in direct sales, you know that the ABCs that I preach all the time, active selling, asking for a sale, building relationships, creating content, is the ticket to success. And that A for asking holds true in so many other aspects of our life. If we want something, we have to ask for it. And we have to do that, again, sometimes a little bit scared. So one thing I've learned in producing this podcast is that it's okay to ask people to be a guest and ask them to come join you and ask them to be a part of something. Again, even if it feels scary. If I went back to my first few episodes, I would have never imagined attracting and asking some of the guests that I've had to date. I mean, the fact that we get to speak to corporate CEOs of direct sales companies and influencers and tech companies and big brands, and they get to come on here and share their knowledge with us is pretty darn incredible. But none of those episodes would actually happen if I didn't put my big girl pants on and just ask, will you be a guest on my podcast? And honestly, it's flattering. They're like, yeah, I'd love to be on the podcast. Some of them ghost me. Some of them I have to follow up with a few times. But there you go. Just ask. Put yourself out there and ask, whether it's for a sale, whether it's for hosting a party, whether it's for joining your team, whether it's for sending a catalog or learning more about the business opportunity. Put yourself out there and just ask. Okay, number 3 lesson learned is to know that they are listening or lurking or watching. And this is such a weird one for me in the podcasting world because unlike other platforms where people can comment and engage and like things and you see that interaction and engagement happening, producing a podcast feels a little lonesome. And I have to trust every week there are people out here listening to these episodes. They're watching them now that we have it over on YouTube and on Spotify. We know that people are out there. I don't always hear from them. And I think the same holds true as you're building your brand on social, building your brand online. You can't always see the people that are lurking or watching or listening, but I promise you they are out there and they are waiting. They're just waiting to hear from you. And that's the mindset that I've had about this podcast from day one is I don't know who needs to hear it. I don't even really know who's listening. I get very little analytics from the podcasting platforms on, they're mostly demographics, where people live, how old they are, gender, that sort of thing. But I don't get like a list of names and listeners that are actually tuning into the podcast every week. So that's also been one of those that I think has helped me in other aspects of business. I'm showing up consistently, literally every Tuesday since December 2020, putting out an episode, trusting the process that there are people out there listening and watching and learning and growing alongside me. Even if I don't see the hearts, even if I don't see the comments, I know that they're out there. So that is another one that I think just is so transferable in so many aspects of your business. It's just know they're out there, right? Okay, number 4 is it's kind of fun to evolve and change. And for the podcast in particular, I think when we first started out, I was in our garage in a dark corner. Oh my gosh, it was so embarrassing. I had boxes of Christmas decorations behind me. I was at this little desk with my little headphones on, and I would invite guests to come on the podcast, and I'd say, oh my gosh, I'm in my garage. And the funny thing is, here we are today, and I'm still in my garage, but we have up-leveled quite a bit. And now we have the podcast on video, and that was a big shift for us. It's one thing to not have to do my hair and actually be on camera and be able to kind of just have a casual coffee chat with my guests that are just coming to hang out with me for the podcast. And now it feels a little bit more of a production, but I'm here for it. We have evolved. We have grown so much. Right before I recorded this episode today, I actually went back and I listened to episode 1. And episode 1 is my story. And it was my story to date as of December 2020. And I had a moment listening back to it that one, I was thinking, oh, you can kind of hear the shakiness in my voice, or two, you can tell that I'm kind of reading my notes in certain parts, right? Or three, ooh, I was talking really slow and there were some weird pauses in there. But really, when I think about how far we came to get to episode 1 and now fast forward to episode 200, oh my gosh, I have evolved and grown in so many ways, with confidence, with skill, with public speaking, with the guests, the quality of the production. It just continues to get better and better. And as we're seeing a lot of change inside the direct sales industry right now, this is such a parallel for me that I'm like, okay, I see that. We're growing, we're evolving, we're pivoting, we're changing, and it just keeps getting better and better for us. And I truly, truly believe that. So number 4, there you have it, is it's okay to grow and evolve and change and get better, right? Okay, number 5 is kind of a funny one too. Number 5, lesson learned, is it's okay to say it again or say it a little bit louder for the people in the back. And I say this one because when I think about the content that I've put out on this platform, last week we were talking about email marketing. One of my first few episodes was about email marketing. So there's a lot of the same themes. Maybe the delivery sounds a little bit different, looks a little bit different. We've changed our approach in certain areas. We've gotten better and smarter and savvier. But there is a lot of content that I say over and over and over again. And if you're a parent, you probably feel that way. A lot of times when I'm talking to my kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, for the 47th time, do not leave your Crocs in the middle of the living room. Right? Or for the 800th time, you need to ask before you go in the pantry and just grab a bunch of junk food. So I feel that way in the most loving way to our listeners. But I really think that reinforcing some of the same concepts over and over and over again is really important. And sometimes you need to hear it in a different way, or bring in a guest where they can share it in their own voice, and then it clicks for people. So while the industry has changed, while my thinking and my approach to direct sales has evolved to better meet my students and customers where they're at, and consumer behavior and all of those things, there are still a lot of fundamental concepts that just need to be reinforced and said again and again and again. So if you're hearing this now and maybe you're a corporate team member and you're like, gosh, I say the same thing to my sales field all the time, or maybe you're a leader and you feel like you're repeating yourself to your team, or maybe you're a listener and you're thinking, yeah, you're right. I needed you to say that 5 times before it really made sense to me. I think it's just important to put out there that it's okay to repeat yourself. It's okay to reinforce the same learning, the same training in multiple ways from different angles over the course of time. All right, number 6 is one that I have struggled with over the years, and I've gotten better at, and then I've gotten worse at. But number 6 is being prepared, and planning ahead is gold. I cannot tell you how much better I feel when my podcast is recorded a little bit further in advance. I've definitely been in the moment that I've recorded the podcast the day before it goes live. I fully admit to that. And that is not how I like to operate. That's not the pressure that I like to put on my team. And I've definitely had moments where we've been pretty far behind, or we've been really far ahead. And feeling ahead, oh my gosh, how good does it feel to get ahead on things? So whether you're planning your schedule for the week, or you're planning your social content, or you're batching out your email marketing, or you're recording some videos in advance, it feels good to be proactive versus reactive. And in terms of the podcast, that's one that I have felt on so many levels. It's such a heavy weight on my shoulder when I don't have the next week's episode ready to go. And I can start seeing my team pinging me, hey, where are we at? Is that episode coming out soon? And I just feel so much better when I have a game plan and I know what's coming. So take that for what it's worth in your own business. I'm sure we all have different areas of our life that we think if we could just do a little meal prep or if we could just get a little bit ahead of the kids' schedule by getting up a little earlier, that would make a world of difference. So that has been a huge, huge learning from me is the further I get ahead on things, the better I feel and the better I can show up and support my community. Number 7 is it is okay to ask for help. And this is kind of a fun one as I was reflecting on the podcast. When I first started podcasting, I hired Susie. Shout out to Susie. She was my podcast coach because I did not know what the heck I was doing. I did not know what mic to use. I did not know what to say. I did not know about ads. I did not know how to get approved on Apple Podcasts, any of those things. So I hired someone to help coach me. And that was huge for having a very smooth and successful launch into the podcast. And I've asked for help along the way. As the business has grown, we've been fortunate to be in the position to bring on Sierra to manage our social media. She's absolutely incredible, and she's posting the audiograms from the podcast every week and writing the show notes and sharing out content on social. We've also brought on virtual assistants to support us with the editing process so I can sit and record and talk to this camera and pass it off and trust that the final production is going to sound way better than it ever did during the recording phase. So it's been absolutely incredible to have a team to support and to lean into to help with those areas that honestly I'm just not that good at. I'm pretty good at this, talking to the camera and podcasting and interviewing people and showing up, but leaving some of those other details to the team that is really, really qualified to help us really produce and implement the podcast in an amazing way. So I am so thankful for the team every step of the way that has helped with the editing of the podcast and the producing of the podcast. And again, that holds true in other areas of my life. I know that we've had incredible people to help with our kids, coach our kids in sports. We've had incredible people to help around the house when times got busy. I get to work with my husband and business partner, and we know he helps out with a lot of the tech, right? So leaning into others that can offset your skill sets has been huge. And I think that's part of the reasons why I still find this podcast so much fun to put together. I get to talk to incredible people. I get to share my thoughts and ideas here on camera, and the rest is left to the team to make happen, and they do so beautifully. All right. Number 8 is a lesson around sharing what you know. Now, I don't have a course on podcasting. I am not a podcasting expert, but I've done 200 episodes now, and I am so proud that I've been able to share some of what I've learned along the way with others as they've gotten started on this venture as well. So shout out to Lisa Duck. She has her own podcast that she shares on every week now, and I was able to kind of chat with her about what that actually looked like in practice. I've had students in our programs that have launched their own podcasts as well. I'm working with the team at J Bloom and launching In Full Bloom, which is a really fun podcast series that we're putting together, highlighting some incredible consultants. So sharing what you know, teaching what you know, even if you feel like you don't know it all, is one of those lessons that I've fully embraced in everything I do. But it's been really fun to do in the podcasting world and see some of those episodes really come to light for people that are like, I think I want to start a podcast. I'm like, yeah, let's start a podcast. It's such a great way to create content and put yourself out there on the regular. Okay. Number 9, if you've been around for a while, this one is not going to surprise you, but I am such a big fan of repurposing content. So a big lesson here on the podcast is that I can create a 20-minute episode. I can take that content and use it as a blog post. I can take that content and I can drip it across social media. And not only just one platform, it is going on LinkedIn, it's going on YouTube, it's going on Facebook, it's going on Instagram, it's going on TikTok, it's going in all the places. So a podcast for me is kind of my content hub. This is the place that I come, I show up, I speak to the camera, I share a lot of content, and then we take that content and we break it down into smaller pieces. Oftentimes it becomes an email that we send out to our list, and it's just been such a great way to have some very big content pillars in our business that we can pull from and we can share across other aspects of our business. I know not everyone is a podcast listener. I don't know why not. Podcast is so fun, but I know not everyone's tuning in every week. But if we can take a short 30-second clip and put that out on another platform where somebody can catch it and think, oh, that was a helpful tip, I can apply that. That is absolutely huge, not only for the sake of my content strategy and streamlining things and helping our content get out there to the world more seamlessly, but I think it's also just meeting your listeners, your followers, where they're at. Not everyone wants to listen for 20 minutes. Some people want the 30-second cliff note. Some people want to read the caption and not listen in. So it's been really fun to use the podcast as a way to create content consistently, but also be able to share it out in a really intentional way as well. Okay, number 10. Number 10 brings me to celebrating those wins. I don't do this enough, and I try on the regular to remind myself to celebrate these milestones. 200 episodes is huge. This is worth celebrating. But I will say that all the other little episodes and wins in between are also worth celebrating. And when we think about celebrating, there's so many different ways to celebrate our wins in our business. It could be treating ourselves to that vanilla frappuccino. It could be that bubble bath. It could be that walk. It could be just writing down all of those little things that we're celebrating and we're grateful for and those wins that we have in our business, but being intentional about celebrating. And I know a lot of you are similar to me in that we just like to go, go, go. And when you're a go, go, go kind of person, sometimes you don't take that pause to realize, all right, I need to celebrate what I've accomplished here. 200 episodes, 100,000 plus downloads. That is a pretty big deal. But it's also a pretty big deal that we're putting a voice out there. We're putting content out there. We're sharing perspectives and point of views, and we're connecting in with our listeners, right? There is a lot to celebrate, not only here on the Modern Direct Seller podcast and what we've accomplished so far, but I can guarantee there are a lot of wins in your business that are worth celebrating that maybe you just kind of glossed over because you were in go, go, go mode, working to get to the next thing, hitting the next milestone, hitting that next achievement, that next rank, that next bonus, when we really just need to take a quick minute to pause, celebrate where we've been, congratulate ourselves on where we're going, and be intentional about working those celebrations into our day-to-day business. So with that said, I am celebrating today. I should have filled this up with champagne. I am celebrating 200 episodes with all of you here on the Modern Direct Seller podcast. Thank you again for being part of this incredible journey. There are probably 200 more episodes coming. We're not stopping anytime soon. So thank you again for being here today. It was a pleasure producing 200 episodes alongside you. I'd love to hear from you if you have a favorite guest, a favorite episode, a favorite snippet of these 10 lessons that I've learned along the way that hit home for you. I'd love to hear from you. So shoot me a message over at Modern Direct Seller on Instagram, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can always leave a comment below. I am cheering you on in so many ways. Let's get out there and go make it a great day. Thanks so much. We are proud to welcome CinchShare as the newest sponsor of the Modern Direct Seller podcast. CinchShare is the #1 most trusted social media platform for network marketers, direct sellers, affiliates, independent consultants, virtual assistants, small businesses, and creators in any industry. Start your 30-day trial today with coupon code GAMECHANGER and spend less time posting and more time socializing.